We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Beis in Meseches Sotah. This is Sotah Daf 10b. The Gemara is discussing the pasuk by Avram. It says Vayikra, that he called out B'Shem Hashem. This is when he planted his tent or his Eshel in Beersheba. And so the Gemara says, don't read it as Vayikra Ela Vayakri. It shouldn't be Vayikra. It should be Vayakri, meaning he taught others to call out in the name of Hashem. Melamed Shikri Avram Avinu L'Shmo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Peh Kol Over V'Shav. What it means to say is that Avram Avinu caused the name of Hashem to be in the mouth of all who were passing by. After they would come by his tent and they would eat and drink, Amdu levarcho, they would get up to bless him, meaning they were going to give a bracha to Avram. Amar lem, he said to them, did you eat from what was mine? Mishel alokei olam achaltem, you really ate from what belonged to God. Hodu v'shivchu varchu lemi shamar v'haya olam. You should give thanks and praise and blessing to the one whose statement brought forth the world. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says by Yehuda and Tamar, Vayireh Yehuda vayachshavel lezona ki chisis apaneh. It says Yehuda saw her and he thought she was a zona because she covered her face. And so the Gemara asks, Mishum dechis apaneh chashvel lezona, because she covered her face, he thought she was a zona. A zona would be someone that uncovers themselves. That's immodest. Amar Rebbe Lazar says shechis apaneha beveis chameh. What it really means is she would cover her face when she was in her father-in-law's house, meaning he had never seen her before because of her modesty, and that's why he didn't recognize her. So Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Yonasan, because Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani said that Rav Yonasan said, Kol kala shitzenu beveis chameh, any kala that is modest in the house of her father-in-law, zocha v'yotzen mimena malachim unavim, will merit to have kings and prophets come from them. Menolan, from where we know this? Tamar, we know this from Tamar. And how do we know that Tamar had both Nevi'im and Malachim? Nevi'im dechsiv chazon Yeshayahu ben Amotz, the Nevi'im, that refers to Yeshayahu ben Amotz, and Malachim David, and Malachim, of course, David HaMelech came from Yehuda. V'yomer Rabbi Levi, and Rabbi Levi said, Davar zeh mesoras bi'adeinu mi'aboseinu. We have the following tradition from our fathers, Amotz v'Amatzia achim havid, that Amotz and Amatzia were brothers, meaning Amotz, who was the father of Yeshayahu, was brothers with Amatzia, who was a king, and therefore you see that kings and Nevi'im, they all came from Shevet Yehuda. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, He mutzeis. Now the meaning of that pasuk is she, Tamar, was brought forth, but it uses this language of mutzei, sounds like she was found. That's why the Gemara asks, He mitotzeis mi boile. It should have said mitotzeis, meaning she was brought forth. Why does it say mutzeis? Amar Rebbe Lazar says, Lachar shenimtzu simoneha bas amol v'richkan bo Gavriel v'kirvan. After it was found, she brought forth the simonim to show who she was pregnant from. So Samuel came along and he distanced them from one another. He sort of hid those simonim, and Gavriel came and he brought them close. He brought those simonim into the open to show Yehuda again what Tamar was trying to indicate. Hainu dichsiv, and the Gemara says that's what it says in the pasuk, and this is a pasuk in Tehillim. The pasuk says Lam natseach al Yonas elam rechokim leDavid michtam, and so the idea is Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says Mishosh nisrachu simoneha, when her simonim were distanced, so nasis kiyoni lemis, she became like a mute dove, meaning she had no evidence for herself. And the Gemara explains the other part of that pasuk, LeDavid Michtam. What does it mean, LeDavid Michtam? Sheyatzu mimena David, that David came from her. Shahayamach v'tam lakol, that he was modest and flawless to everyone. Davaracher, another interpretation of Michtam. Michtam shahisa makaso tama shenolad kishumol. Michtam means to say that his wound was whole, so to speak, meaning that he was born and he already had a bris milah. Davaracher, another explanation, Michtam, what does it mean? Michtam keshem shebekatanuso hiktan atzmo, just like when he was younger, he made himself small, he was humble. Eitzel misha gadol mimenu lilmo Torah, by someone who was greater from him, that he wanted to learn Torah from that person. Kach bigadula. So the same thing was true when he became older. He made himself small in order to learn Torah. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk by Tamar says, Vishalchel chamio lemor liisha asher eila lo anochi harish. She sent a message to her father-in-law saying, to the person that these items belong to, that's how I became pregnant. And so the Gemara asks, V'teimale meimar, so why didn't she just say explicitly that he was the father? Amar Rav Zutra bar Tovia Amar Rav. Rav Zutra bar Tovia says, the Rav says, V'amri lama Rav Chana bar Bizna, Amar Rav Shimon Chasida. Some say that it's Rav Chana bar Bizna that says that Rav Shimon Chasida says, V'amri lama Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rav Shimon ben Yochai. And some say that it's Rav Yochanan says, in the name of Rav Shimon bar Yochai, Noach lo la'adam sheyapel atzmo l'soch kivshan ha'esh. It's better that a person throw himself into a burning furnace, ve'al yalben pnei chaveru b'ravim, and he should not embarrass his friend in public, and that's what she was avoiding. She did not want to embarrass Yehuda, and the Gemara says, Menolan, from where we know this, Tamar, we know this from the episode by Tamar. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, by Tamar, Haker no, recognize, Amar Rabbi Chama Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina says, Bahaker biser la'aviv, Yehuda informed his father using the word Haker, and Bahaker bisru, and he was informed using the word Haker in terms of being informed that he was the father of Tamar's children. Bahaker biser Haker no haksonas bin chahi, With the word haker, that's what Yehuda used when he said to Yaakov, haker no, recognize, is this the ksonis, is this the garment of your son? And Behaker Bisru, they informed him with the word haker no lemi. Again, they said haker no lemi. And the Gemara says, no, ain't no l'lashon bakasha. When it says haker no, the word no over here is a language of like request, a language of please. Amrale, she said to him, b'vakasha mimcha, please, haker pnei boracha, recognize your creator, v'al talim einecha mimeni, and don't hide your eyes from me. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, Vayaker Yehuda Vayomer Tzadka mimeni. Yehuda recognized and he said, she is more righteous than I am. Hainu dam Rabbi Chanin bar Bizna, Rabbi Shimon Chasida. That's what Rabbi Chanin bar Bizna said, that Rabbi Shimon Chasida said, Yosef Shekideh Shem Shamayim B'Seiser. Yosef, he was Mekadeh Shem Shamayim in private, so Zachav Osifu Lo Osachas Mishmo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so he merited one letter added to his name from the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Dichsiv, like the pasuk says, Eidos Bihosef Samo, they add the letter Hey to the name Yosef. Yehuda Shekideh Shem Shamayim Farhesa, Yehuda, who sanctified the name of heaven in public, Zachav v'nikra kulo al shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So his entire name is really the name based on the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kevon shehoda v'amar tzadka mimeni, and when Yehuda admitted and said tzadka mimeni, yotzda baskol v'yamra, a baskol came out and said, Atoy tzalta tamar shnei vonem, or you saved Tamar and her two sons from the fire, chayecha, by your life, shani matzel b'schuscha gimel mibanecha min or. I'm going to save three of your descendants from the fire, and man ninu, who are the three descendants, Chananya, Mishael, Azariah. Chananya, Mishal, and Azariah. Tzad kami many, then he said, Tzad kami many, so he said, it's from me, I'm the father. Mino yada, from where do you know this? Yatz the Baskol v'yamra, the reason is a Baskol came and said, me many, it's from me. Yatzu kavushim, these hidden matters are coming from me, meaning from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the pasuk also says, by Tamar v'lo Yasaf odadaita, he no longer continued to know her. What does that mean? Amar Rav Shmuel Saba Chamua, the Rav Shmuel Barami, Mishmei, the Rav Shmuel Barami. Shmuel Saba, the father-in-law of Rav Shmuel Barami, said in the name of Rav Shmuel Barami, Kevon sheyada shuvlo pasak mimena. What it actually means is once he was with her, he had relations with her, he did not stop doing that, he did not cease. That's what it means. V'lo yasaf ksivacha v'lo yasaf odadaita. He uses the word yasaf over here. And it says over there, kol gadol, it was a great sound, v'lo yasaf, and there again it means it did not cease. So that's what it means in this context as well. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Avshalom nisgoy besaro v'chulu. It says Avshalom was arrogant with regards to his hair, and he was punished with his hair. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Avshalom besaro marred. Avshalom rebelled with his hair. Shenemar, like it says, Avshalom lohaya es yafa v'gomer, uvegalcho es rosha v'aya mikes yamim l'yam asher yigaleach, ki chaved ola v'gilcho v'shakal esar rosho, masayim shkolim beven hamelech. It says that he would shave his hair because it would become heavy, and it weighed 200 shkolim. And the Gemara says when we say be'evan hamelech ton, it was taught evan sha'anshe Tiveria v'anshe Tzipore shoklim ba. This is the same stones that the people of Tiveria and the people of Tzipore, they would use it as shkolim. They would use it to measure with. The point is that it was very heavy. He had a lot of hair. Lafikach, and therefore nisla besaro. Therefore he was hung by his hair. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Vayikra Avshalom lifnei avdei David ve'Avshalom rochev al hapered. It says he was riding on the mule. Vayavo hapered etachas sovech ha'ela hagadola vayechaz rosho be'ela v'yutan bein shamayim uvein ha'oretz va'hapered asher ta'achdov avar. So it says that the mule came underneath this tree and his hair got caught on the tree, and then the mule left from beneath him. Shakal safsira boy lemifsika. So he took his sword, he wanted to cut the hair, to cut himself down. And Tana Dever Rabbi Yishmael, it was taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yishmael, Ba'osasha, at that moment, Nivka Sha'ol Mitachtav, the netherworld had opened up from beneath him, so he couldn't do that in order to escape. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says that when David learned of his son Avshalom's death, Vayirgaz HaMelech, it says the king trembled, Vayal al Aliyas Ashar Vayevk, V'choamar V'lechto b'ni Avshalom, b'ni Avshalom, Mi'iten Mosi ani tachtecha Avshalom b'ni, V'amelech lo'at espana Vayizak HaMelech kol gadol, b'ni Avshalom b'ni. So it says again, the king David HaMelech, he cried when he heard about the death of Avshalom. And the Gemara says, Hani Tamanya b'ni lama. So why is it that he says my son? He says it 8 times. And the Gemara explains, Shiva da'aske mi Shiva midore Gehenim. 7 of the times that he says b'ni, it was to bring him up from the 7 levels of Gehenim. V'idach, and that last one, the 8th one, Iko de'amri, some say, Dekariv reish legabe gufe, that when Avshalom was cut, so his head was separated from his body, and that 8th time it brought his head closer to his body. V'iko de'amri, and there are others that say, Da'aise li alma da'asi, that he brought his son Avshalom to Olam Haba. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, Avshalom lokach vayatziv lo b'chayav. It says that Avshalom took and he set up a matzeva. And the Gemara says, my lokach, what did he take? The pasuk just says that he took, but then it says that he built a monument for himself. So Amar Reish Lakish says, Shalokach mekach ra liatzma. What it means is, he took a bad purchase for himself. He made a bad decision. And Rashi explains that the idea is he took the authority. Vayikach means he took the authority upon himself, and he built this matzeva for himself. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, "Es matzeves asher be'emek hamelech v'gomer." Again, the pasuk says he had this matzeva in the emek hamelech, in the valley of the king. Amar b'chanina bar papa says, "Be'etza amuka." What it means, emek hamelech, it means it was the deep counsel, it was the deep thoughts, shel malko shel olam, of the king of the world, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph.